Hello? You hearing me on Discord?
Yeah, I got you
All
now.
right,
I
sick.
just turned it off the
All right,
screen.
perfect, man. So how you doing, dude?
I am doing awesome.
That's fucking good to hear. It's me as well. I'm looking forward to this, man. You tell
You
me.
got your work cut out for you.
Okay, that sounds good. Let me know how much work we got to do here. Let me know what league you're in and what race you are and what you kind of generally want to focus on.
Well, I'm playing Terran. I'm struggling against Zerg. It's placed me in Diamond 2 because that's what I was a few years ago when I used to actually play the game.
Okay.
But it won't let me demote, so I'm just getting my ass kicked basically
Okay.
in Diamond League. I've been watching your Bronze GM. Mainly, I just try to focus your macro, but I just get hammered.
Okay.
Um, I've won a few games, but most of them are usually just defending a cheese, not really.
Sure.
Yeah,
Do you generally play more mech or bio styles?
I'm mainly playing mech just because that's what you started off in your videos there.
Sure.
But I'm usually switching to DCs in the mid to late game because that's what I'm finding is having a little bit more success than
Okay.
um, waiting for Thors and stuff.
Sure, sure. So definitely that like mech in general is definitely what I would advocate for anyone between bronze and platinum. And I'm not saying that you cannot still go mech in diamond, but I will say if you are gonna go mech, we'll have to definitely look at your style and make sure it's making sense. Like there are definitely some styles of mech that cater to being greedier and being turtly, and some styles of mech that cater to being hyper aggressive and like for instance like battle mech. So we'll kind of get in there and we'll see what your styles are. We'll see what your build is efficiency wise and stuff like that. Yeah, I'll try to help you create something that's going to be up your alley about what you like to do. So,
Alrighty.
so I guess just in if you're on BattleNet already, just in top. Are you actually on BattleNet before I say this? Just to make sure I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
I got you on my list still. I can see you.
okay. Okay. Oh, perfect. Just give me an invite and then let's or I can get you invite you I guess. Let's do this. And then just
Uh,
what's up?
for the replay, what do you want to see? You want to see me die, or do you want to see
Oh,
me win and just try to improve, or
what?
see what I'm
So
doing wrong?
no matter what replay you give me, whether you win or lose, I guarantee we'll be able to help you improve. It does not matter on that regard. Just give me, I would say, something that you think happens to you a lot, if you can pick one like that, and then like something that's common for you that you run into, and then we can really
Okay.
help you break that down. Because it's gonna be there's gonna be things I'm gonna tell you no matter what if you win or lose.
Okay. It's a pretty quick one, but this is usually the most common.
Sure.
He might actually be in your channel. Apparently, he watches your stream.
All right. Yeah, no worries. Uh, and then toss me lobby host before we go, and then we can start it up. And yeah, if you have like multiple quick ones, like multiple all-in defenses and stuff, we could totally break down a few games instead of just like one big one in overall game set.
Okay. Yeah, I got five set aside here for you. I think I won two of them, but there's lots that can definitely be improved upon.
Sure.
So I wasn't sure what you were looking for. So.
All right. Okay. 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 Uh. Okay. So we'll look at your build. Oh, sorry. We'll look at your build and make sure it all flows and makes sense. Um. Your gas is going down before your barracks a little bit. That's fine. This means you're going to get a little slightly bit of a faster factory. It's not a problem. And then this is so already. Okay. I'm just gonna pause it now and say this second depot, I
Yeah.
don't prefer. Well, I mean, we'll watch a little bit more to see what your plan is, but I already don't like the second depot though.
Okay, you like it for the reactor to switch to a
No,
factory or
no, no.
something?
I'm not. It's not so much the placement of it; it's the order of it. I think if your plan is to go for a natural, if your plan is not to do like a one base all in, you should definitely prioritize your command center before this depot because this depot, like, you're not going to even supply block before it if you're to go CC first, and all that's happening is you're delaying your macro now a little bit more than need be,
Okay.
and then you're also going factory prior, and you're not scouting anything. So
No, this game I didn't scout. So
okay.
usually I do send an SCV that's finished the first supply depot just
Okay.
to go look.
Okay.
But it's I've been trying to focus on just making SCVs in the command centers and all that stuff. This game doesn't last long enough to get. I don't think I make it past their base.
Yeah.
Even having.
Okay. So are you doing like the tank opener basically of B2GM?
Yeah, tanks.
Okay. So
usually I make more.
I would say this opener is a bit expired for Diamond. This build is amazing for Bronze to Plat. Like if we're talking about tanks into like Hellbat Thor, it's super good Bronze to Plat. But the thing about Diamond is Diamond players, when they go unhindered, they start to kind of understand how to macro decently. Like they don't have these they don't have these problems anymore of just like you know, it's like, oh fuck, I don't know how to play efficiently and my build is just bad. So if you do a build that makes your build kind of inefficient, and this build is not the most efficient thing because it's overly defensive, because like just making a bunch of tanks and sitting there is not the most, and then you're not even prioritizing economy as hard as you could be. It's not the most economical thing. It could definitely be more efficient than this. It's just basically, like I might have to sneeze right now. I'm trying to fight it off. It's basically like it's for people that like do exactly what's happening here, which is like they don't really pay attention to what's going on. They don't scout. It gives them like a better chance of not dying, and more often than not, anyone platinum or below is going to play inefficient. So even though this build is not the most efficient itself, it's ultra safe, and it's in terms of like ground all-ins, it helps a lot. It makes it easier not to die, and that's why it works so well then in leagues like that. But for Diamond, you definitely got to start switching up your style a little bit more, doing a little bit more efficient things. Like for instance, if you're going to go for like tanks, opening up with Hellions and doing a little bit less of a gas priority and then going into tanks after you open Hellions is a great way to do it. Opening up Hellions and going into like Cyclones is a great way to do it. Opening up Hellions and going into starport units is a great way to do it. You don't really want to just open tanks anymore necessarily and just sit there defensively, because if your opponent scouts this and sees you doing this, he could literally just be like, oh, how about I just go hatchery and go like fucking 4 bases right away.
Well, yeah, this guy just smashed me with roaches and ravagers.
Okay.
It made no difference. The last couple days I've been trying to make a starport, and I make the odd liberator or something that kind of sits in front, but
yeah,
not very good at it yet by any means. The problem is I feel like I'm probably at a gold, maybe a low level platinum spot, but the game won't match me up with those players. Like for a long time I was playing against masters where I was just getting
stuck. Oh, you think you're gold?
Yeah, I think I'm gold to platinum. Okay. The game won't demote me.
So
it's I'm being forced into it.
Well, okay, tell me again, what was your previous, when you used to play, what was your previous MMR? Like your league?
I used to play against, I was Diamond, I used to play against Masters quite often, but Zerg was my main at the time.
Okay. And then now you've just kind of like placed into Diamond, you said, and then you've been stuck here?
Yeah, now it's been placed into Diamond and it won't drop me down.
Okay, yeah.
I still play StarCraft, but it's usually just team games. Like I don't play the 1v1.
Okay, well, there is a league lock right now in StarCraft, which means your league is not going to change. But your MMR still does change. So but the game should match you MMR based off of your MMR. So do you know what your MMR is right now?
If we leave here, I can tell you.
Okay, that's okay. I
want to say it's 3,000 or something.
Yeah.
That.
Okay. If it's 3,000, you're definitely not Diamond. So okay. So I'm gonna say we shouldn't do Diamond. I honestly, I thought if you were Diamond 2, I was just kind of assuming like, oh yeah, well, you're just getting back in the swing of things, but you're Diamond 2. But if you are in 3K range, I think this build is totally fine. So I am gonna change the way I'm gonna coach you now. Because if we're gonna build back up into Diamond, this is totally fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to focus on. Is in your videos there, I've watched all the way up to your gold.
Okay, that's yeah. It's all G. The ladder gets a little bit fucky around like the end of seasons because sometimes you have awkward placements and things get locked. So yeah, we'll treat this like a B2GM lesson then, which is totally fine. So I'll say this: I still do. Just going off of your scouting, I still do want you to do what you said earlier. How you said you usually do a supply depot scout or something like that. That's great.
Yeah, after the supply depot.
And the reason why is because I would love you just. I would love it for you just to see if he has a natural or not.
Okay.
That's like all I would really care about. And you can also tell a big thing about Zerg if their natural is far along or not. And here's the way you can kind of tell. Protoss should always be kind of similar to you in terms of your timing of your natural, but Zerg is different because Zerg does not actually have to go spawning pool first, which is what you do when you go barracks first. So Zerg's naturals, not only are they a little bit cheaper, but they don't have to go for the military production building first. So basically, if you supply depot scout and let's say your barracks is like halfway done when you get there, or like 2/3 of the way done, so your barracks is almost done, and you see a hatchery there that's like 1/3 of the way done, you know for a fact that he went hatchery first, and that it means you're not getting all in. You're like at least early game. We're talking like a 1 base all in. And then if you see no hatchery there, or if you see a hatchery that's like maybe just starting, then there is a very good chance that he is either going for something heavy gas related, or he is going for a pool before hatchery, which means if the hatchery is not there, or if it is just starting, I highly recommend you take that SCV and you scout into his base, into his main base, and you just look only at his gas. And just out of curiosity, if you scout somebody, do you know how much gas is in a gas geyser by default? Like how much it starts with?
2,500, I think.
It's 2,250.
2,250.
And then when you get into, if you see a very late expansion or no expansion at all, I would highly recommend doing one patrol, one circle around his creep, and also just click his gas and pay attention to what it is. And if he has mined like 200 gas or something like that, or like 150 gas already, you can definitely be like, yep, okay, yeah, let's maybe make our CC on the high ground and like keep it there for a little bit, and keep all my tanks in the high ground and get ready for a bust. And if we're talking like the gas is just starting, or if it's like mined only like 20 gas or something like that, something very low, you can kind of proceed with caution, but still do your normal thing where you're going to take the CC on the low ground. You're going to put your first tank on the high ground, like the standard version of B2GM. Start building your depot wall at the natural, stuff like that. And you'd be fine.
Okay.
Because, yeah, like the less gas emphasis would mean you're not going to get ridiculously all in, but because he's not prioritizing, it would just basically, let me say it like this to make it make sense. If there was a very heavy gas priority, so he had mined a lot already, what that would mean is that he sacrificed minerals to do that, because he ripped the drones off the mineral line to do gas. And the only reason why anyone would ever do that is because they want to go for a timing, like for instance a Bane bust or Ravagers or something like that.
Okay.
And if he does not have a gas priority, if his gas is like just starting, after he's already started like the hatchery, and like you get there and you're like, oh, he's only mined 20 gas or something, and you're starting your factory already or whatever, you could be like, all right, well, he just did a safe pool opener, and that means that all he did that for is he's most likely the kind of guy that's like, I don't want to get proxy rexed and I don't want to die, so I'm gonna go pool first because I'm paranoid. Like that's the kind of player he would be. So that's how that makes sense. So again, I would say you only really need to scout into the main base if you see a very late natural with your first scout compared to what he should have.
Okay.
Your command center upgrade is complete.
All right. And then I like that you're building your depot wall at your natural. This is good. Okay, actually, hold on. We actually we were kind of talking about other stuff and we skipped a few things. These 3 depots in your main, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I actually, so I mean, I would say it would be okay if you were getting 1 base all in. That'd be fine because you're gonna leave you would leave the command center on the high ground. But if you don't scout, or if you scout a macro build, like if you forget to scout, like basically if you just don't know if you're getting all in, or if you know for sure you're not getting all in, always put your depot wall in front of your natural. The only time I would ever say put your depots in your main like this is if you've confirmed you are getting all in, because I can't tell you how much this fucks you over.
Okay.
The fact that you're gonna die right now, I feel like it's because your depot wall is not going to be done, and he's just going to run in and kill you.
Okay.
That's what I would assume.
I'm not gonna spoil it for you.
Yeah, that's what it seems like is about to happen. Because you could actually have a done depot wall right now. And then if he goes for speedlings or something weird like this, you would actually have a much higher chance of defending it. But right now, if this guy just was like, you know what, fuck it, 25 speedlings, let's go. You would just, your whole natural would be compromised because your tank on the low ground would die, and then he would just run all of your SCVs, and you would have to lift off, lose all your SCVs, and you'd be like, okay, now I'm super far behind. Like, this sucks. So getting that depot wall is ASAP. Like, ASAP is very, very, very important. And then y'all good? Just
yeah. Sorry, I was just went and grabbed a piece of paper from my printer.
You're all good.
To,
I was like,
make notes on.
I was like, did you fall out of the chair?
No. I was just getting paper from the printer.
Okay. All right, it's looking close. Your depot wall might be done, but yeah. All right. So, we'll go through this a little bit faster, but I'm gonna go back and look at the beginning of your game. I want to see your exact opener and everything, because I feel like you have a little less than I think you could, just in general.
It seems to be my overall thing. I don't know if I'm slow getting my second factory.
I think part of it is also because you're making so many depots. Because I do like that you're making the wall here at the natural, but your supply max is so fucking high right now. And if you do costs like this way too fast, way too often, it's going to definitely slow everything down for you, in general. Okay. Also, another thing that you didn't do that's going to slow you down, that's massive, is you didn't even use the barracks at all to make add-ons. So what that does is that keeps the factory busy for a good chunk of time. We're talking 40 seconds for a but like it's 36 seconds for a reactor, and it's 18 seconds for a tech lab. So that's right there. That's like over a minute for both of these factories combined, where they weren't producing something because they said they were building an add-on. When if you would have built the add-on with the racks and you just like lift and float, especially if you build the add-on side by side with the factory, you can lift, land, and it only takes about literally 2 seconds to swap it over, or maybe 3 seconds.
Okay.
Instead of and look, your wall's not done either. This dude could literally just walk in if he wanted to. So, anyways, you have, you see what he's got. You see he's got Ravagers. You see he's got Roaches. He's confirmed what he's doing. Your tanks are, I would say your tanks are maybe a little too cluttered. And what I would say is, I think your tank on the low ground might, like, you see how you have 2 Hellions between your 2 tanks?
Yeah.
I think if your tank on the low ground was like right there, that would be great. And the reason why I say that is because that is a good distance away from the depot where your tank could be, but it's also still being covered from the tank on the high ground. And it's enough distance. Also, the closer you get to the depots, the further out you can shoot, right? So if that tank was like a little closer, it would be more optimal because it would get more shots off if someone does something like what this guy's doing, where he pops your wall a little bit and runs away. And then your second tank should honestly be like where your SCV is, north of your command center that's kind of chilling right now next to the gas.
Okay.
Like, he should be a lot further up there, so you can cover both sides of the wall. Because the reason why that SCV's placement, and like if you had the other tank like between your current 2 tanks, it's far enough back to where the only way he's going to be able to corrosive bile your tanks, or like auto attack your tanks with a focus fire, is if he literally ran into the depots. Like, he like walked literally into the fucking depot wall with his Ravagers, and that's going to allow you to get so many shots off on him, and there's a good chance that he's going to lose Ravagers like crazy if he does something like this. Like, he's going to get punished for trying to kill your tanks. And then if you have multiple tanks as well in those positions that I was talking about, if he does the right side of the wall or the left side of the wall, you're going to be able to shoot him multiple times. But you see, like right now, if you like just double click your tanks really fast, and do you see those white little dot boxes? Like, it's like the rings of radius of how far a tank can shoot.
Yeah.
Now look at the bottom side of your wall. If he were to walk his Ravagers on the south side, There's a good range of coverage there that you would fuck him up in. But now look at the north side. You have like very, very little coverage there, and there's not much going on there in terms of how you can punish him if he tries to kill the top side of your wall, which is exactly what he's doing.
Now, for the tank that's still on the high ground, would you suggest that gets moved down
No,
at this point? Or
I think it should stay there, because the thing is your tank, like, you're not only relying on tanks as well. You definitely shouldn't be. At this point, also, you should also now start having, like you do, Thors and Hellions, and Thors and Hellions should be the things that kind of start becoming a little bit more mobile now. But they should never move out entirely. They should just stay in the front of your tanks so that if he tries to run into your tanks with his army, your Thor Hellbat will kind of be like the goalie that'll like shove him back, essentially. It'll like cover the tank more or less. But the tanks will constantly get shots off, though, every time he tries to shove you.
Okay. Yeah, that's what happened here. Is he got my tanks and then everything else just kind of melted.
Yeah, we'll see how you kind of do this.
I don't do anything.
Well, I know. Well, I mean, like how things go, because like right now, the fact that you're taking your third is kind of crazy. The fact that he can kill your whole depot wall and not get shot by a tank at all is crazy. Then we're talking about placement again there. Like he basically sat there for like 30 seconds or like 40 seconds killing your whole depot wall, and you shot him only once when he first ran into your wall and was like, oh, you know what, I'll Corrosive Violet down. And that comes from the fact that you just don't have good tank placement.
Okay.
Like your tanks, again, they're way too south focused. Yeah, another thing you can do too is like, think about it like this, okay? Think about it like this. How many times do you play against Zerg players and they do what he's doing right now, where they leave an Overlord on the high ground next to your cliff?
Well, every time there's always an Overlord somewhere nearby.
Exactly. So what you can do is your first barracks could actually go Tech Lab first for the tank production, and then it could go Reactor right after for the second factory, and then now look what's your barracks doing. It's just chilling forever, because you will stay on 2 factories for quite a while with this style. I do remember I stayed on 2 factories until I was over 100 supply, off like every game, because you're prioritizing SCVs and your tech, and you know, you're still able to have a respectable army pumping nonstop tank Thor out of one factory and then Hellions out of the other. Especially when you're turtling behind a wall. But what you could do is with your first Thor, you could turn it into high impact payload, and you could literally fly the barracks to the cliff where the Overlord always is, and you could kill the Overlord, and it removes his vision that he can use now to see where your setup is defensively, and it will be harder for him now to accurately always get a good, you know, feel safe about engaging, because he's going to be getting shot by tanks in Fog of War then, which is a lot harder to engage in.
Okay.
So like right there, you did micro a little bit, and I would say that so there's 2 things I would say you did wrong here in this fight. And one was, if you know you're getting Ravager all in, this is like a setup, like a knowing what is good against what. If you know you're up against Ravagers and you have Hellion, tank, Thor, you might as well turn those Hellions into Hellbats. And the reason why is because Hellbats do so much more fucking damage than Hellions do, just in general, and they also absorb more damage, and they're melee instead of range, so they will literally on just a aggro command. You're not even telling them to attack. It's because they're getting attacked. They will literally walk forward and become like a frontline blocker, and they'll get in the Roach's way and shit, and it'll create more time for your tanks to do more damage, and your Thors to do more damage. Also, your Thors backed up, which means, number one, like, they're slow as fuck. They're not doing damage while they're backing up, and they're also tankier than tanks are. Like, they absorb more damage. So you would actually, it would be nice because of how he's. It would just be better for you if the Thors were actually absorbing the damage instead of the siege tanks. Okay. Because it's overall gonna create more damage for you, because a siege tank is a lot squishier than a Thor. A siege tank does more damage than a Thor to this kind of an army composition, especially when he's stacked up like this. And then your overall DPS is going to be higher, again, because a tank is not like a Thor. If it gets focus fired, will last longer and keep uptime of damage longer than if he focus fires a tank. Yeah, no. If you would have made Hellbats here, and then you would have just not moved your Thors, I guarantee you would have held this. You're almost holding this as it is. Okay, and then now we're gonna take a quick step back here, and we're gonna look at your build order really fast. So again, the build order should kind of be, you can go barracks, or sorry, you can go gas before barracks. It's fine, like supply depot, gas, barracks. This again, this depot is very incorrect. You're just gonna make it way too early. Right now, you should be making a command. Like you can make either the factory or the command center. I'll accept either one for bronze to plat.
Okay.
If you go gas right as you go barracks, you could go command center because you definitely will have enough money to do that. If you go gas before barracks, you could go factory and then CC.
Okay.
But definitely don't make this depot because you're not making barracks units. Like look at your supply right now. You have 5 supply ready to go, like just waiting, and then you're not making barracks units and you're not making SCVs because you're making an orbital command. So like this cost is definitely not needed yet.
Okay. I just figured because I have the money, I might as well do it now.
Yeah. Well,
It makes sense to get the CC first.
Yeah.
Because once the CC finishes, I usually have a lot more supply than I can spend.
Yeah, and then I mean, as well, as soon as you can, once you're committed to the factory, make that tech lab on the racks and then swap it over for sure. Like that's like again, if you think about that too, like that full minute of production lost on units. Imagine if you had another minute of production to have units, which could have been like another 2 Hellions and another tank. Literally. And that would, like, if you had another 2 Hellions and a tank, so a 4th tank there, and like 8 Hellions instead of 6 with the 2 Thor, that's even higher chances you're going to very, very much hold that. That timing.
We finished that. SCV ready.
And then don't start your second gas until you start, actually, your second gas is fine. You can start your second gas. What's up?
I usually do it once I'm saturated on minerals.
Yeah,
I start my
yeah. I was gonna say it makes more sense because you're actually opening Hellions, you're opening tanks. So yeah, when you're fully saturated on the mineral line, that's totally fine. I was about to say the same exact thing, because the tank is actually kind of gas expensive, so that works. And then yeah, no, the big one is for sure your loss of production time. Like think about it like this. Your tank right now would basically be spawning like almost like right now. It would be spawning in the next couple seconds instead of not even halfway done yet if you swapped over add-ons. And then you could be having a reactor started right now too, as simultaneously with this second factory, and you would have Hellions so much faster. And then if you had if you had 2 depots as well in front of your natural, like you could have this natural walled off by like 5 minutes, and have like probably 6 Hellions there, 4 or 6 Hellions there, and already like 3 tanks by 5 minutes, or like almost even like 4 tanks by 5 minutes. Because look at the second factory too. Let's watch this. Your second factory finishes at 4:03 exactly. It's just now finishing right now, and watch how long it takes. Again, it's like a 3 seconds to swap it over, and then you can start. You could start producing that if you were on top of this like really hard. At 4:06, you could start producing Hellions probably, which is why you want to also build your add-ons right next to the factory so it doesn't have to fly very far. So 4:06 is like roughly when you could start making Hellions. Now let's see how long it takes for the Hellions to actually start being produced, because the reactor does get delayed as well.
Command center got better.
Yeah, that's because I'm bad.
No, it's totally fine, but like these should be the priorities, for sure. Like things like that should definitely be what your biggest focus is on. And your Hellion production doesn't start until about 5:06, literally. And we'll see if you make them right away too.
Add-on complete.
It was actually 5:08 when it finished, so a minute and 2 seconds later, and then you haven't started Hellions yet. And you start your first Hellion at 5:26. So 80 seconds after you could have made Hellions, you started making Hellions. 80 seconds, and if you think about it like this, okay, this is why I'm being so critical here. If you go, how the fuck do I not die to an all-in? Well, if you're not producing units for 80 fucking seconds, that's how you die to an all-in right there. That's pretty fucking huge. That's massive. It's definitely going to make the difference of you dying or living.
Okay.
Like, if you think about StarCraft in a sense of efficiency, if you do everything and we're not even talking about like, I need you in there, dude, killing like 30 drones minimum. You got to be harassing. You got to be maximizing your units and don't fuck your build up at the same time. Like, that is super hard. 100% validated. That is very difficult to do that. But if you're only trying to do like SimCity for yourself, where it's like, all right, I need to produce everything when I need it. Just trying to do the build. Things like that are all that is repetition, and it's basically things that are like guaranteed. It's not chance. It's not like I might fuck up my Hellions, I might not fuck up my Hellions. If you do it enough, you're always going to do your Hellions properly, because all you're going to do is have like an internal timer in your head, and you're also seeing it on the screen where you're like, factory's about done, let's keep tabs on that, and now it's done. Okay, start my thingy, switch it over, start making Hellions, and then it's like you have it hockeyed too, which I love, and you should be going 3, production's good, 4, production's good, 3, production's good, 4, production's good, 3, production, like literally repeatedly over and over and over and over, and that's all you're doing. Because when you play this game, I'm gonna ask you a question right now. How often do you actually look at the bottom middle production cycles like while you're playing? How often does that happen for you?
Probably definitely not as often as it should, but it does happen. Like when I watch my replays after, I'll notice I'll go like 20 seconds without making SCVs or something like that.
Sure, because like if you like,
definitely not an ongoing thing.
if you just click both your command centers, like click one, shift click the other, so you have both your CCs in the control group. What you should be looking at, like there should be like 3 spots on the screen your eyes should be staring at, and one should be the very bottom middle right now, where you see 2 command centers and you see one little white dot in one of them and then nothing in the other.
Mm-hmm.
And you should try to maintain that at like 2 white dots per CC. Always.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because it allows you to be like, well, if you catch it when you only have 1, you just add another one to it. Because if you see it like this, you don't know, when you're looking down here, you don't know exactly when it's going to finish. But if you look at the center of your screen, you do know, because you can see the production bar on the SCV. But if you look at the bottom middle and you're like, oh, 2 white dots, that means that I have a queued up SCV that's ready to go as soon as the first one's done. And then same thing on your factories. You want to try and maintain, like, you know, like at least 1 round of production. But the way it kind of goes is like this, okay? You go like this. You're like, this should be the cycle for you. And I'll just describe the locations on the screen you should look at before I describe the cycle, just to make sure you understand everything. First things first is bottom middle, like we just talked about, how you look at the bottom dots on the production. The next thing you do is you look in the center of the screen and you kind of just look at what you're seeing, to where you can be like, I need to place a building, and I'm looking at where I want to build that, or something like that. Like you're looking at, or like where you want to set up a tank. And then you look at top right and you look at your supply and your current resources. So those are the 3 locations you stare at repeatedly on the screen. And your rotation in your brain should go like this. Okay, I'm going to now, I have money. I need to build a depot. I'm going to supply block soon. I need to build my command center, whatever the fuck I'm going to build. You build it, and then you go back to your production cycles, and you go in a rotation again, where you go check on my queued up units, then go to your production of your factories, which is second priority after SCVs. You make a round of those, and then you go back up to the top right, and you look at your money, and you go, how much do I have and how much supply do I need? Do I need to build another depot? And then if the answer is yes, obviously you build a depot. And then you look at your money and you go, how's my money doing? If your money is starting to ramp up faster than you can spend maintaining these dots, you add more to it, because this will happen over time as your SCV count increases. And if your money is kind of like stuck thin, you just try to maintain what you have when you keep what you have. So your build order, for the most part, is not that bad. Like, the fact that you took it really early 3rd CC is totally good. The fact that you're not supply blocking is nice, but the fact that you're making so much fucking supply is not great. Like, if you ever have a supply cushion that is this large, I would be like, okay, maybe a little excessive. You want to try to maintain maybe like 20, like, if you're in the range of like 10 supply to 30 supply, I would say is fine for a cushion during the build up. And then if you're maintaining around 20 supply cushion, that is like almost perfect. Because that's going to allow you to make like Hellions and a Thor and a couple SCVs here and there, and you're not going to ever block really. But then as soon as you start adding on, like, instead of staying on 2 factories, once you start adding on, like, you're now up to like 5 factories, or you're up to like 8 factories, and now you're starting to produce, you know, fucking, instead of like, it's producing like 10 supply a cycle, now you're producing, like 40 supply a cycle or something like that. Then obviously you're going to need more supply, but usually by then you're near max anyways, so your max supply is going to probably be maxed out anyways around that point. So that doesn't, that's not as relevant when you get there to that stage, because your supply depots are kind of done then. But yeah, like, you're definitely ramping up way too fast, way too early, and the lack of Hellions, the fact that you have no Hellions by 5:30 and you're just starting only 1 so far is super late. So we can definitely fix that for you for sure. And then the overemphasis on turrets, I would say, is a little, I would say just like 1 turret per mineral line, because you're making a turret, 2 turrets in your main, and you're making 2 turrets in your natural. This is a bit excessive. And you're doing this before your Hellions. So you're actually giving yourself lower odds to defend all-ins, because well, it's because like if think about like what all-ins you, right, as Zerg, you're like, what's gonna hit me? It could be Ling Bane, it could be Mass Ling, it could be upgraded Lings, it could be Ling Roach, it could be Roach Ravager, it could be Ling Bane Roach, it could be Ling Bane Roach Ravager, it could be just Mass Ravagers, fucking as many as possible with a little bit of roaches, like lots of ground stuff. And maybe a Nidus Worm, which is again ground stuff. But if you think about what all-ins you from Zerg in terms of air, it's just like mutas are a possibility for sure. But you're like, with the way your build's kind of going, is it seems like you're almost like paranoid about mutas, and you're underemphasizing all the other variations of ground that could hit you, and the odds of a Zerg having a ground attack to hit you are so much higher.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do get a lot of attacks by mutas, but I do better, I guess, at dealing with those than I do with this stuff. But
well, would you feel would you if mutas were to hit you right now? I'm gonna ask you a question right here to see how much I feel like you like. I just want to see what your emphasis is on what you think is possible here for Zerg. If your Thor were to pop out, which it would before mutas would kill you, and we have 1 turret, like, you know, your turrets are up. How many mutas around 6 minutes do you think could hit you if the guy literally rushed mutas to get them that fast?
Oh, I don't know at the 6-minute mark.
Well, it's
Maybe
like
7 or 8.
Okay, I would say like 7 is a decent guess. That's definitely on the higher end. I would say maybe like 5 to 7. 5 to 7 mutas. And then now, if you have a Thor and a turret in your, like a Thor roaming your base, and then a turret in each mineral line, do you feel like you'd be okay against that many mutas?
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree. I think a Thor, 1 Thor and 1 turret could manhandle the fuck out of 5 to 7 mutas. I think 1 turret alone could even kill 5 to 7 mutas if you repair it.
Yeah, I've had games like that, but the guy just sits over top, and I'll end up losing my SCV line just from repairing it. But
well, like 5 to 7 mutas,
usually it's more than 6. Usually they wait and they come with 10 or 12, and
yeah,
they just sit over top.
If you think about like 10 or 12, how long do you think it would take for me or for a Zerg to get 10 or 12?
I have no idea. You're asking questions I don't know.
Well, it's okay. Like it's okay that you don't know the answers to these. I just want you to think about it like this. I want you to like start thinking more about like what's capable of your opponent, and if you did let him get to like 10 mutas, 15 mutas, 20 mutas, you know what's gonna happen for you too is your Thor count's gonna increase, and Thor fucking destroys mutas so badly. Like if he has 5 to 7 mutas, you could easily have 1 Thor. If he has 10 mutas, you could easily have 2 Thors. If he has 15 mutas, you could easily have 3 Thors. If he has 20 mutas, you could have 4 Thors. And I'm going to tell you right now, the efficiency of muta to Thor goes up exponentially for Thor. It's not like it's always going to be a 5-to-1 trade ratio where Thors always trade 5-to-1, where it's like 1 Thor could beat 5 muta and then 2 Thors always beat 10 muta. If you get to a point where you have like 10 Thor, you could fucking destroy like 100 muta with that. Like like even more if if we're talking about the guy that does not have perfect, flawless like magic box muta micro, which he's not going to have if we're in Platinum League, I would say the chances of him balling his mutas up on a move and then just you watching like 60% chunks of his army just die, like they get splattered to Thor missiles. That is way more likely in lower leagues than the perfect micro player, because players in lower leagues do not have perfect micro. They do not.
They do not.
Like, for instance, when I watched that fight with Ravager Roach versus your tanks and Thors and Hellions, neither one of you microed that fight correctly. So, I mean, that's going to happen more often. And if you just have Thors just chilling there, ready to just blast the shit out of mutas, you're definitely going to win that fight. 100% chance, guaranteed. So the fact that you're overemphasizing like a panic defense of like, oh my god, what if mutas come? Too many turrets for sure. Thors will get the job done. Believe in your Thors. Like, they definitely will get shit done. And all that's happening is you're lowering your unit count because you're overemphasizing more like the emphasis is too high here. And again, this is why you died. It's things like this. Like, it's like your delay of your production. And yeah, we can kind of wrap it up on this one. We can jump into another one. What I kind of want to do, this is what I'm thinking about doing here. And you can tell me if you think this sounds like a good idea. Let's look at like one more game, and then I'll break it down a lot faster. I'll just kind of look at how you kind of set your base up again and see if you're kind of making mistakes again that I think you could fix, like how you did last time with the tank positioning. But then I'll give you a build that I think you should go for, like a new modified version for you, that I think you should definitely just kind of aim for, and that'll be like your guide essentially to you know, setting it up.
Alrighty, that sounds great.
Fuck yeah.
Are you ready for another one?
Yeah, I left the game. I'm ready for you to hit it up, and then toss me lobby host whenever you're ready, and then we can do it up. Alright.
I wrote down that I won this one, but I don't remember it. So.
Sure, it's all good. Yeah, in winning and losing, it always
Yeah, oh no, there's definitely lots that's still
yeah.
wrong with it.
Alright, so it's another Zerg, TVZ, perfect. Alright, so we're gonna do this one a little faster. We're gonna like ×2 this. Just to get through it quickly. Yo, Rushy, thank you for the raid, man. What's up, guys? I'm doing a coaching lesson. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Alright. So your gas is going down before your barracks. It's totally fine. You're scouting him. I like that a lot. You're making your barracks. Your build so far is flawless for B2GM Stuffola. You're also trying to, maybe you are, but you are mostly stacking your close patches, which I love. If you don't do that, do you know about that concept? Just really quickly.
I do know about it,
Okay.
and when I notice it, I do it, but it's not something I'm actively looking.
Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna back it up and ask you a question really fast. Just because I want you to, if you don't know the answer to this, it's totally fine, but I want you to feel confident in the way you look at things. But now, when you look at your barracks, and you see your barracks is like a little more than halfway done, and you see what you're seeing at the Zerg's base right now, what do you think his build was?
Hatch first.
Okay, that makes me that I'll accept it. You don't have to give me an exact number. It's just yes, hatch first, because that hatch is. You don't have to be exact. It's totally fine. You never have to be like that is. I could tell that is a fucking 18 hatch. That is not a 17 hatch. I could tell.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be that technical. But yeah, the fact that you can look at this and just understand a hatch first based off of what you have is important, because being able to make that read already gives you so much more confidence to go, yeah, I already know I'm not getting all in. That's a fact. That way, that should not create like, for instance, the second depot is an overreaction. That I would say the second depot makes sense if this was not a hatch first and you thought, holy fuck, lings are being made right now, and the last thing I want is for him to run into my base. Like, even then, this depot would be way too early. But I think what you did is you queued up the depot on your SCV that's building the barracks, so it's just gonna do it after.
Yeah.
But yeah, even then, to build it after the barracks is done, like that, I would say then that would be fine, because your barracks is going to be done in the next 20 seconds, which that would definitely be when lings would be starting on they would be spawning now, and they would be probably where your SCV is right now. They would be like running down his ramp, running to your base. Or maybe even like at the rocks, at the ramp at the rocks. So that depot building then would be fine. And the fact that you have no other costs in between is not a big deal. But I would just say, be careful about doing things like here. Hold on, let me say it like this because I want to make sure this concept makes sense. The fact that you queued up this depot, if he was all-inning you, it would be fine because you would not be stopping production of anything else that is more of a priority, and it would be totally fine. But if you do shit like this a lot, like you do, because I saw you do this with the turrets as well in the last game. If you queue up buildings that are like going to be built maybe a minute from now or like half a minute from now, and they're just queued up, your money, your bank is literally, it's depleted until they're done because you've already invested into the future production of this. When it would make more sense to just do it when you're going to do it right then. And in the meantime, if you're sacrificing things like Hellions or SCVs or something else that could be built now, definitely try not to do that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because you're just tying your money up, and if it ever fucks your build up, it's not worth it. All right, then you scout into his base, and you see a pool being started in a gas. This is totally fine to scout into his base like this and see his production because this confirms to you that there is no third hatchery. There's nothing weird going on. There's not like a greedy Zerg player here. The fact that you should see a gas in a pool and they should be started at a slower pace than your barracks because of the fact that he went hatchery first. So like, because again, a spawning pool and a barracks also have the exact same build time. It is 46 seconds. And if you compare your barracks to his pool and you go, oh, his pool's like only a third or a fourth of the way done and my barracks is almost done, then yeah, like you've further confirmed, cool, it's hatchery first into pool gas or gas pool, whatever. So yeah, you've just given yourself a full read. This looks like, so far, it could turn into whatever it wants later on, but so far it is a standard build from Zerg. And then you're not building an add-on again on the racks. Definitely start doing that. Definitely start doing that.
Your command center upgrade is complete.
Okay, this time though you are prioritizing your depots though in front of your natural, which I like.
I got one at the back too for some stupid reason.
Yeah. I think you just build them.
Yeah, I don't.
So, just throwing it out there, like, again, think about this, okay? You got the Lings annoying the fuck out of your SCVs, right?
Yeah.
And
the reactor was done.
yeah, and we'll talk about the 3-second thing again. Right now, your factory's done at 219. At 222, you could have started making Hellions. Because that's about how long it would take to lift off, swap, and land it. And then we'll see when you actually make Hellions. And a Hellion's build time is only 21 seconds. So if you can make it at 222, that means you could have had 2 Hellions out at, what, 243? So at 243, you could have 2 Hellions. And we'll see what happens at 243. 243, 2 Hellions could be out right now. So you could have had Hellions out before the Lings got here. And now let's see when you actually build Hellion. You start building a Hellion at 258. So you could have actually almost had 4 Hellions out by now. You could have actually had your 3rd and 4th Hellion spawning at 304.
Okay.
Which would mean, yeah, in like 4 seconds you'd be having 4 Hellions, but 2 Hellions could easily have killed this Ling. And now this Ling is just being annoying as fuck, and it's you know, stopping production on your command center. It killed your supply depot SCV.
No, I canceled the supply depot for some stupid reason. I don't know why.
Well, did the SCV die as well?
I think it killed one. Nah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. He killed your SCV, and then you canceled this depot after.
Yeah, I canceled. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but like the thing is like that's just like what happened. It doesn't matter how much happened, but what did happen is this is unnecessary damage that is happening that is annoying the shit out of you, and it's slowing your build down. And it could be fixed by literally building add-ons in your barracks and swapping. So that is the biggest thing about your build so far that I've seen that could be fixed. And then also, if we're talking B2GM style, I do still recommend, and we'll talk about something that makes logical sense. This game, you actually prioritized 2 gases faster than you did last game. You actually cut SCVs at like 13 or 12 to make your 2nd gas. And then you went Hellions. which makes no sense because that is a mineral focused initial production, and now you prioritized gas faster than normal, so that's why you have almost 500 gas right now, and you're also, and then exactly, and then now what's happening is not only are you prioritizing your gas really hard, you're overemphasizing supply depots really fucking hard. You have 37 out of 70 supply, and you also like you're putting a lot of heavy mineral costs into your build because you're going Hellions and heavy depots, and then you're also not giving yourself a mineral priority focus. You're giving yourself a gas priority focus. So your build is like two totally opposite things right now. Again, that's why stuff like this will definitely be, if I just create a build for you, it'll fix things like this for you where it will make sense, and it won't have like this disparity.
SCV ready. Command center got better. SCV ready. Add-on complete.
Yeah, your gas is way too hard for the Hellion build. So if just to throw it out there, I mean, I'm not gonna focus too hard on this. I'll tell you this in like 10 seconds, and we'll move on. But whenever you do builds that are focused on Hellions, these are definitely like Diamond Plus builds. You do not want to take your second gas until much later. Usually around the time when you start like your third CC, or like at the very least, like you start another factory and you're gonna make like Cyclones or something. Like you don't actually like, but you do always open up Hellions, and you do not make second gas until you start second factory. You do not. Yeah, yeah, because that's when it's going to add in more gas costs. Like you're going to add in the tech lab to then make whatever the fuck you want to make. But sometimes you or until you make the starport, one or the other. But you do not make your second gas until much later, because your first gas can easily maintain getting the reactor and the factory, and then Hellions don't cost gas at all. So it allows you to gradually grow your tech while maintaining heavy mineral income to support heavy mineral focused build. And yeah, I would say don't do Hellion builds, honestly, until you feel confident in like Diamond League.
Okay.
Because what you're doing right now, see how you're harassing and stuff like that? Like doing things like this, you do disrupt your opponent's build, but you also disrupt your own build. Because you have to, you know, like you're multitasking now. And watch, I want you to really quickly watch your base right now. Just literally go to your base right now, and then I want you to hit 2 buttons on the keyboard, okay? I want you to hit Control W.
W.
And did that like take your overlay away?
Yeah.
Okay, now I want you to also hit Control Z and zoom your camera out.
Okay.
So now I want you to just kind of have an overall view of your whole base. Like put your camera to where you can see every building. Like you can see the bottom right natural command center, top middle main command center, and you can see every factory and all the stuff. Just have your camera like kind of centered so you can see all the productions.
I can't move my screen.
Hold your middle mouse button. Like scroll to the edges of the screen with your mouse, or hold your middle. Okay. And then now do you kind of see every building production wise?
Yes.
Now I just want you to look at this for the next like 30-40 seconds, because don't move it. Right now just know your Hellions are harassing, okay? They're going to be harassing for the next like minute or so. And I just want you to watch your production cycles while you're doing. This is why I do not recommend people to go Hellions in lower leagues. So your SCVs, they missed a little bit there. You're not building anything up the tech lab factory. Your reactor, both your factories are doing nothing. Both your command centers are doing nothing. Your command centers are building SCVs again. Your tech lab's now doing something. Your reactor's still doing nothing. One of your command centers is doing nothing. Your reactor factory is still doing nothing. Your other command center is starting to make an SCV. Your reactor factory is still doing nothing. your second command center, or sorry, your third command center is done, but it's doing nothing. Your reactor factory is still doing nothing. The whole time it's doing nothing. You're at like 3 SCVs just chilling there, or 2 SCVs chilling there. Your SCV production's not the worst here. You finally grabbed your command center about a minute after it was done, or like 45 seconds after it was done to move it. Now your tech lab factory is doing nothing, and finally your reactor is doing something, and you're not doing anything with your command centers. Now I'm going to pause it, and you can hit Control W and Control Z again so you can have your camera and shit back. And just know that if we hit B like once here, your Hellions, where the fuck are your Hellions? How long ago did they die? Okay, so they're dying, but they're not dead yet, and now you're still not dead yet, so you're kind of probably like trying to keep them alive or some shit.
Yeah, one lives.
And then like if we look at resources lost, okay, now hit L. You killed 11 drones worth. That's like 1 Ling and 10 drones. And you lost your Hellions. It's fine. You lost what basically looks like 5 Hellions, an SCV, and a canceled depot. That's what your resources lost adds up to. Anyways, you lost a little bit. You made him lose a little bit. But if you think about how much time was lost in your build, that you weren't utilizing the things that you could have, I would say what you lost in production for yourself is worth more than 525 minerals for him.
Okay.
So, like, the concept there is, multitasking is great if you can handle it. But if you try to multitask and all it does is it disrupts your own build, which we did see, it disrupted, like, your command centers a little bit. It disrupted your 3rd orbital command a lot. Like, that was a good chunk of time where it did nothing. It disrupted your other factory a bit. Or like your tech lab factory, it disrupted it a bit, and it disrupted the reactor factory the whole fucking time. I think out of like 2 minutes, you built like 2 Hellions.
I'm looking at it now. For some reason, I only have the 1 hotkey. I don't know why.
Sure.
Especially when the reactor one was built first.
Yeah, it's.
So I probably fucked up somewhere there.
Yeah, it's all good. But mistakes happen. The more pressure you put on yourself, always. So if you're not already comfortable with understanding the ins and outs of your build, like for instance, I can already tell by coaching you that you're not comfortable with the ins and outs of your build because you did a gas priority build with a Hellion opener. Because looking at that from a logical standpoint, it makes no sense. And that's totally fine that it makes no sense. It just makes me think that you're not comfortable enough with it yet, because I feel like you can understand the concept of mineral, gas. Like anybody can understand that concept, but it's harder to realize that if you don't have experience, because you don't think about it like that. You just think, I'm just building units. You don't think about the intricacies of like what is actually important until you're more advanced at anything you do in life. Because then your brain just starts grasping that concept for that particular thing you're doing. So, yeah, just like I would say definitely that's why I really emphasize so heavily to just focus on the build and just really understand the concept of efficiency until you're comfortable with it. So yeah, Hellion builds, definitely advocate them once you're like in diamond. We'll speed this up even faster now because yeah. Yeah, no, it's all good. Because I want to make you a build too.
Your command center up.
I just want to see your positioning and how you set things up. I don't really like what you're doing right now, but we'll talk about it in a second.
Mineral field. Upgrade the mineral command.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about this for a sec. Like, you opened up with a few tanks. I like that, but I think just in general, if you're gonna take the 3rd base you took, I think it would be honestly a good idea maybe to like put a depot wall next to the cliff below your 3rd and against the wall. Like make like another 4 depot wall that closes that off, and then you can put one of your like a tank behind that or something like that on this map particularly. I don't really like the fact that you have a double emphasis of tanks there, and then you have like no emphasis of tanks in your main. For instance, you should always have a tank, always up to 3 bases. Okay, always have a tank on the high ground in your main. Always have another tank behind the wall of depots at your natural, always. And then you can rotate a tank towards your 3rd base and then another tank between your 3rd and your natural. So those should be the 4 locations. So the fact that you didn't have a tank on the high ground for a while is scary. And the fact that you moved your tank away from the depot wall at your natural is scary. I understand you have a 4th base now with the planetary, and that helps a lot. And the game is getting a bit later, so your supply should be a lot higher. Which, the higher your supply goes, the less these tanks have an emphasis. It's really just a big emphasis up until the 3 base point when you're like setting up your 3rd the first time, when you're starting Thor production and you're starting Hellion production like crazy. But yeah, always have cliff, wall, and then gap covering tank for the between natural 3rd, and then if you have 4 tanks, have a 4th tank actually in the 3rd. Like how I kind of like that tank's placement between the gas and the mineral line. That's a good placement. Because it's like it's deep in the mineral line, but it can still cover like the edge of the command center and stuff like that on the other side. Does that make sense for the placement?
Yes.
And then a great way to do it too, because your 3rd will probably be a bit more exposed. You can rotate all of your Hellions and Thors to your 3rd to cover it, and then new produced Thor Hellion can cover your natural again behind a depot wall. So,
Okay.
like, if he attacks you and you're like, fuck, I'm out of position. Oh, my Thor tank currently is, or my Thor Hellion currently is at my third. Let's send it back to help my natural, and I'll raise my wall. That buys you time to not only have your army come back and defend it, but also tanks to shoot it while it's breaking the wall down, but also new units to be produced to then also reinforce the front of your base.
Gotcha.
Whereas
So
if
for
he,
the- for-
or, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go.
For the fourth, where I have my tank, I shouldn't have brought it down at all. Should leave it up high on high ground.
Yep. And you could have it like on the left side of the high ground.
Okay.
And that would be a much better location for it.
Okay.
But just know, like roughly around like 9 minutes, your supply should be a lot higher than this, and you should not give a shit. Like once you get to like 150 supply, stop giving a shit about your tanks. Like it only matters in the setup. It does not matter later on because you're definitely going to have a Thor priority.
Okay.
And then yeah, we'll speed this up now really fast to see how you kind of like go through the fight. And you're doing Hellion attacks again by themselves, like, and you know, like that's not bad that you just did damage there, but I think again it's doing damage to yourself in a way where you're maxing slower. I do think your max could have been definitely a bit faster. Like you definitely slow him down too, but the fact that you slow yourself down is not really acceptable for you because you will eventually run into players that will, if they defend you, you just fall behind and you die because you're sacrificing your own build for that.
Okay.
The way you're attacking now, I like a lot. You're just kind of A-moving it, and you're hell batted. You hell batted it, and you Thor high impact payloaded it. That's definitely ideal. That's good shit. And I can see you're definitely ramping up your production as you go higher. You definitely have a lot of factories. You have like how many factories? You have 10 factories currently, and you have another 3 in production, so you're going up to 13. That's not bad at all. Like 16, I would say was always ideal, and you're still going up to it, so that's fine. All right, I left that replay, so now I'm gonna make you a quick build that'll take you to like 3 base, and it'll give you kind of an idea of the setup.
All right.
Oh, holy shit! Oh, excuse me.
Zoom tight.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna invite you back to party. I'll make a game really quick. And then, do you have any questions really fast about anything?
Are vetoes important at anything at my level? There's only one that I have that I refuse to play, but I don't know if there's others that I should avoid.
I would say like a veto could be like Golden Wall, like that, or Purity and
I think
Industry.
that's the one I have. It's got the
Yeah.
bottom layer walled off by minerals.
Yeah,
Bottom path. Yeah, I refuse to play on that one.
yeah, that's maps like that are very awkward and different. You could definitely veto those because those are not standard. But if you just play standard maps, yeah, those maps are probably going to be the most ideal for you. Okay, and then yeah, if you have any other questions about anything, feel free to ask during this while we do this, and then just save this replay when it's over, just to have a guide, and you'll be good to go. So I'm gonna do still tank opener with you know, like a natural third, etc. Standard B2GM style tank opener into Thor Hellbat. Okay. Okay. So I got my gas saturated, and we can send an SCV out to go scout. You can send your depot SCV scout too, or you can send it to SCV like I just did just now. That's like right after, like the next build SCV after the barracks or something. Either way is fine. I really don't care. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Just always know whenever you scout, always base the opponent's build off of your build. Like that's it shouldn't always be like you have to like always memorize the clock exactly. It should just be like, well, what have I done this game? What did I open with? And logically, what makes sense for what he could have opened with himself. So if my barracks is just finished and I go look at the Zerg's base and he doesn't have a natural, well, obviously I'm like, okay, well, yeah, it's fucking 1 base all in. But if it was a normal player, but yeah. And now check this out. Watch my my barracks. I'm starting a tech lab on it. And because we're going for a tank focus, I'm going to actually throw down my second gas a little bit faster, only because this SCV will come back and mine the mineral patch. My SCV building the factory will go back and mine the mineral patches. And I'm going to need that gas to make a tank. Because you can see my gas is like not high enough. There we go. It's all good. And then we can start getting ready to make our tank and our command center. We can just make our CC on the high ground just to be safe. It's fine. And now we can start a second factory. And we can start a reactor on the barracks again. And now we can start making depots, because I need more, on the low ground. And I can put my tank on the high ground that would cover those depots the best, like right here. Alright, and now immediately swap it over. And now you could even like take your barracks over to like the front of your natural. And you could even land it as part of your wall if you want to, or you could not. It doesn't matter either way. But like, let's just say we are gonna do that right now. We could actually have a full wall by less than 4 minutes. 340 full wall. And now by the time my second tank comes out, I could actually have it right over here. So I could have it still within range of my first tank to be covered by that, and I could have it covering my wall as well, kind of in the center. And now I'm just making Hellions and tanks now. And now we could have our second command center go to our natural. We could start a engineering bay and an armory, so I can make turrets. And let's start getting a saturated mineral line on my natural. And now, since I have another tank, we can maybe unsiege this one, move it back a little bit, and then move them kind of like spread out my tank spread even more a little bit to make it more symmetrical. Like it covers a wider range of area now, a little bit better. If I spread them a little bit, and it makes them harder to kill too. And now we can make one turret per mineral line because the depot's done. And this is still roughly around the before mutas could hit you. It's physically impossible to hit you with mutas before like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Because you can't literally tech that fast. And now we have 4 tanks, and we can start making Thors. And third base, Thors, and Hellions. Let's start another depot. And we could even already by 5 minutes, I already had 6 Hellions and 4 tanks. And turrets, which is a fuckload. Because if we talking about like the last game you were playing, with the super late, not the one you opened Hellions on, but the one that the first game we saw, you didn't start Hellions till after 5 minutes, and we already had 6 by then with 4 tank. And now if mutas were to hit us right now, we're talking the early muta, like if you had like 5 to 7, we'd have a Thor and 2 turrets.
For your third and fourth gas, you start it when your minerals are saturated at the expansion?
Pretty much. Because we're only doing 2 gas production and 4 gas, we're only doing 2 factory production, and going 4 gas is fucking overkill as hell for just two factories, one of which is using gas only, while the other one's making only Hellions. So now when I start my other gases, this is now when I could be like, well, I need some more gas costing things. How about we make a second armory? And then I can add on other upgrades as well. And so on and so on. You just definitely don't want to prioritize gas way too fast. For sure. Like, it's definitely going to screw you if you do. Oops. You can see our army's already quite large. And now if we're gonna get attacked, we could be like, oh, roaches, but I can just make hellbats. And obviously I know this is a tiny attack, but this is look at the army I have right now. Around 7 minutes is the same time you got attacked when you got all in that game. So you would have had this army, which is fucking huge. 2 Thor, 4 tank, and like 11 hellbats. Yeah, thank you for the raid, Sal. Much love, man. So now it would be a good time to be like, okay, let's take our 3rd base. We can also even start a 4th base right now. Keep making production, and we can go like this with our tanks. Unsiege the 3 tanks in my natural, send everything to the 3rd. Leave 1 tank in the center again, replace it.
Okay.
And then 1 tank between my bases, and 1 tank behind the mineral line like you had it. And then now we're getting a bit of money again, so we can be like factory, factory, factory. We can definitely ramp up our production. We can rally all our SCVs to the 3rd base now and rotate the ones over that are oversaturated. Drop some mules on it and stuff. And now you can see I have this like nice coverage of dudes in front of my base. And then if he were to attack my natural, I could just be like, alright, raise the depots, pull my army back, and it's fine. And if he doesn't attack me, obviously we leave it down. And then you can take your gases again once you're fully saturated. And just try not to block and stuff. You know, if you need to, you can call down supply, but we're at that point now. We're almost maxed. We can take our immediate next command center and make a planetary with it. And now if we're gonna take that planetary, let's rotate the tank like we talked about, like this. Move it up to the high ground. Move it there, and you can take your next round of Thors and Hellbats, and move it over here to guard the planetary. And now you can just like rally over there too, because this is your newest exposed base. And now we can even rotate SCV rally points to the new base. And you could do, like, we didn't even do this, like I said before, but look at my 3rd base, where the other orbital is. We can do like something like that with depots, and create a pseudo wall. And now suddenly this is harder for him to engage into. And if you do something like this, it would make more sense now to do this, because it's now a wall, and he's gonna have to break that down. So we would want to then move our tank like this. Exactly, and then plant it like that. But again, tank placement, like I said before, isn't that important once you have high as fuck supply. It really is not that important anymore. But we're already maxing out right around 10 minutes. And you did not max out in your last game that we saw when you won until 12 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been able to max at the 11-minute, which is the goal for bronze.
Yeah.
But I've been pushed right against diamond right from the get-go, which is kind of...
Well, I will, and then from this point on, all you would do is, I'll just say it from now, just so you don't, like, somebody don't forget this.
Upgrade completed.
That's it. That's literally it. Just, and you can reread that in the game and stuff if you ever need a refresher. But that's all you do. You just, that's like the sequence of what would happen from this point on. But I'll go ahead and end it there just so you have the, like, it's literally like just getting to max. And from there, all it is literally is all the shit we talked about. Where like you scout the sides of the map, A move. Don't even look at it. A move. Don't even look at it. A move. Don't even look at it. And just keep pumping your macro version of what everything you're doing is.
That makes sense.
And that's it, man. And then you would just rotate SCVs and stuff like that. And at this stage too, don't be afraid as well to send out your tanks. Like, once you like max out and you're going to go attack, you could literally unsiege your tanks and have them go with your first army to A move, because that's 12 supply that you could then have in your armies from then on to be more Thors for the remax to attack him again and again in the future.
Okay.
Because the tanks are only for the initial setup defense. Just to make sure you don't die to like for instance, like the Roach Ravager all in. Like, you should not have died to that. If you would have had what we had here right now in this game, if you would have had that at 7 minutes in your game, because you would have prioritized the build optimally, you would have fucking crushed his build. Like the Roach Ravager would have showed up and it would have all died. Because you in that game you had 2 Thors, I had 2 Thors. But you microed your Thors in a way where they ran away and then the tank started dying and then they started shooting. It was like 3 seconds of running backwards, which is not ideal. And then you only had like 5 Hellions and they stayed in Hellion mode. And we had 13 Hellbats. And you only had 3 tanks and we had 4 tanks. And you still almost won that fight. You still almost won it. It was close. And then you also didn't prioritize your tank positioning in a way where you let him kill your whole depot wall without shooting him. So like even with all those mistakes, you still almost killed that. So if you just clean it up a little bit, like how we talked about here, you would fucking destroy that.
Well, I will practice and I will let you know.
All right, man. Any other questions?
I appreciate your time.
No worries.
I think that's good. I'm gonna watch this a few times.
Okay.
And see if I can pick up on something, and I'll play a few games, and hopefully I can make it work.
All right, man.
Or at least get closer to it. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Yeah, thank you as well, and good luck, dude. I will see you next time, man.
Sounds good. Sorry for taking over an hour there.
No, you're all good, man. It's my choice. I could have been like, we're done. But I wanted to give you that. I wanted to make sure you were happy with it. But
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir.
yeah, much love, man. Take it easy.
Cheers, man.
All right, guys. That has been another coaching lesson. If you guys enjoyed that, make sure you guys check out the channel more. I have a lot more replays just like that, or a lot more coaching lessons just like that. You guys can check out I have coaching lessons for all ranges of skill, like low level all the way to like masters. But thank you guys for watching. Good luck to you as well in your own StarCraft 2 journey. And yeah, see you in the next one. Peace, guys.